This story is called The Avowing of Arthur and His Knights. One day, King Arthur held court at Carlisle, and there a huntsman came to him and told him how a grim boar stalked the forest nearby. Never did I see such a one before. I have broken more spears and arrows on his hide than I care to remember, and he has killed a number of my hounds. He is truly vast in size and strength, big as a bull, black as a bear, tall as a horse. His tusks tear up whole trees, and he leaves a trail of dust behind him like an army. If this is true, Arthur said, we shall look into the matter. I will see this monster for myself. The king gave orders that no one was allowed to go after the boar, save himself and 3 knights, whom he chose from among his best men. They were Sir Gawain, Sir Kay, and Baldwin of Britain. These 4, together with Arthur's chief huntsman and master of hounds, set out to track the dreadful beast to its lair. First, they loosed the tracker dogs, then the hounds, and soon enough the music of the trace echoed through the forest. Yet when the great boar was cornered at last, it turned upon the hounds and ripped them to pieces with its terrible tusks. When Arthur and his knights arrived, the huntsman awaited them. "There is the beast," he said grimly. "Be advised, and leave him alone, for I swear he will slay you all if you venture near him." Therewith the huntsman turned for home. Since all his hounds were dead, there was no more work for him to do. But Arthur looked to where the boar could be heard, snorting and rooting in his den, and said, "Sirs, I will make a vow before you all. Even though my huntsman was not hardy enough to attempt it, I will bring the beast down by myself and prepare him for the feast. Now I command you, do you each make a vow of your own?" Gawain, ever ready to accept a challenge, said, "I'll watch at Tarnwathelin all night," for he remembered, doubtless, the apparition which had haunted him there before. Kay said roughly, "I will ride through this forest, from now until this time tomorrow, and kill anyone who stands in my way or challenges me to combat." All 3 now looked at Baldwin, who laughed and said, "How not be different? I vow that never in my life will I be jealous of my wife, or suspicious of any pretty girl, nor will I refuse food to anyone that asks for it, or fear any threat of death from any man." Having made their vows, the 4 men parted, and each went his own way. Arthur turning towards the boar's den, Gawain towards the tarn, and Kay into the forest. Baldwin, however, returned to Carlisle and went to bed. Now let us speak first of the king, as it is right. He sent his own hounds into the thicket around the boar's den, but the fearsome beast soon routed them, and Arthur was forced to call them off. Then he heard the beast coming towards him, rooting up trees and stones as he came. The king leapt upon his horse and seized his spear, and prepared to meet the creature. No one knew what his charge was like, since no one had ever survived it. When the creature came in sight, King Arthur quailed. Red-eyed it was, and horribly bristly. It charged with its mouth wide open, and flecks of foam flew from its jaws. Its tusks were at least 3 feet long, and its hide was so thick and hard that when Arthur used a spear to fend it off, the wood splintered from the beast as it smashed into him. The king fell winded from his horse, which was killed outright by the blow. Arthur himself received such a wound that he was forced to feel it the rest of his life. He struggled upright, leaning against the side of his dead mount for support, and, uttering a prayer to St. Margaret, he drew his sword and raised his shield. When the boar struck him a second time, the shield shattered at once, and the king was knocked over again. The beast smelled like a kiln over a hot kitchen, and its breath so overwhelmed him that he was almost overcome by the stench. He leaned against a tree and strove to collect his strength. This time, as the boar approached, Arthur was able to dodge to one side, and he struck the creature so hard that it staggered. Quick to press his advantage, the king charged and struck again. His sword point went into the beast's throat, and it fell to the earth. There, the king dispatched it with a great blow to its neck. Then he cut off its huge head, and stuck it on a pole, and set about butchering the body with all the skill of a professional venerer. Until this was done, he would not rest. But when he had completed his bloody work and strips of meat hung drying from the branches of a great oak, he knelt briefly and gave thanks for his delivery. Then, weary and hurt, and with no one to attend him, King Arthur fell into a deep sleep. Now let us turn into Sir Kay. As night began to fall, he rode into the forest, and he heard the sound of 2 horses approaching. Drawing from the side of the path, he waited in the cover of the trees until he saw who came. In front rode a girl weeping bitterly, followed by a grim-faced knight, who drove her on. As she came abreast, Kay heard her cry out to be set free from the villainous knight. At that, he rode forward, calling out to the knight to release the girl, or turn and fly. The other answered, "I will be glad to accept your challenge, if you think you are ready for it." "Tell me first who you are," demanded Kay. "I am Sir Menelf of the Mountain," replied the knight. "I won this lady in a tournament at Little Mort, just north of Carlisle." "Then prepare to lose her to me," cried Kay, and the 2 dressed their shields, and laying their spears in rest, charged together. Menelf was the stronger of the 2, as he proved by knocking Kay clean out of the saddle, shaken and winded by this, that he could not even get up at once, and, taking this as a sign of surrender, Menelf declared him prisoner. When he could speak again, Kay said, "Sir, nearby is Sir Gawain, who awaits my coming. If you go to him at once, he will certainly ransom me." "I will be glad to do so," replied Sir Menelf at once. "Let us go." They rode the short distance to the edge of Tarn Rathlin, and there Gawain challenged them. "It is I," called out Kay. "I made a vow I could not keep, and as a result I am this knight's prisoner. Will you be so good as to ransom me?" "Gladly," said Gawain. "What shall I give?" "Will you run a course with this knight?" "Why not?" answered Gawain, "if he is willing." "That I am, and gladly," said Menelf, and the 2 knights prepared to do battle. Both were strong and powerful, but Gawain was the more skilled in the joust, and his first spear laid out his opponent on the earth. Kay rejoiced then, mocking his fallen captor. But Gawain helped up his adversary, pulled off his helmet, and let the air get to his face. Menelf spoke quietly to him. "Sir, you have ransomed this knight, who is so loath to let matters rest there. If you will allow me to rest for a while, I should be glad to joust with you again for this lady, who is my rightful prize." "I would be glad to do so," said Gawain. And when Menelf was rested, the 2 took fresh spears and mounted their horses, and rode together again. Once again Gawain was victorious, and Sir Menelf was laid low with a wound to the head. "Ha!" cried Kay. "Now you have lost everything, for all your boastful talk." "Good fortune never lasts forever," said Gawain reprovingly. He went to help the fallen man to his feet, though indeed Kay's words caused him more hurt than his wounds. "If we were alone," he said to Kay, "I would make you eat those words." "But we are not," said Sir Kay haughtily, "and you have lost everything." "God forbid we should speak to so good a knight who is fallen," said Gawain. "I pray you take not Sir Kay's words ill. When you are stronger, ride with this girl to Arthur's court at Carlisle. Greet the Queen for me, and tell her that her knight, Sir Gawain, sends you. Let her decide the disposition of this matter. You will find, I am sure, that she will ransom this lovely girl in an appropriate matter." So Menelf swore on the hilt of his sword that he would do as Sir Gawain asked, and give safe passage to the girl on the road to Carlisle. Well, this is all for now. You will tune in next week for more of the Avowing of King Arthur and his knights.